why is everything out of balance? And what I found there for me is that, okay, if you look back in history, the history I've been told, I think we've been told in the Western world, is that man created civilization, man conquered the world, and man lead, and women are, um, let's say, supportive to that. And
Hmm.
at some point, I learned through, yeah, call it mystical experiences, but there was a 2 3 years time in life when I had a lot of those experiences, which in which I was able to grasp the bigger part of the world, but also to get in touch with my ancestors and the broader element of feminine and masculine energy in there.
Hey, hey, I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Hey, so men versus women, man versus woman. Who's got the power? Who runs the world, the economy, everything else better? Or is this something where it's a shared partnership? Well, this is something that we're going to talk about with my guest today, Machiel Hoek. But not only are we going to talk about that, but he is also an author of a book called The Girl Who Changed the World. And you can find all this information about Machiel and the book at machielhoek.com. And that's MachielHoek.com. So, you know what I always say before we get into this, I want to remind you if you're a pet owner, please be responsible and have your pet spayed or neutered. And remember, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let's do it.
Welcome to Amazing People, Amazing Things with your host, Chuck Tuck.
Today, we've got a couple different things that we want to talk about. And one of which is you are an author of a book called The Girl Who Changed the World. And it's about a teenage girl named Lisa. But before we jump into your book, I was hoping if you could give a little bit of background as to who you are so we have a perspective and understanding why you wrote this book.
All right.
Also, I would like to talk about women in power because I believe that you do believe that women should run the world, maybe not the entire world, but women have a place in states of head and things like that, right?
And more so, indeed. I'll get to that maybe in a point then afterwards. Otherwise, I'll start railing about that right straight away. But and forgive me if I'm when Black Lives Matter came on, I thought, no way, they don't matter. They mean the world. Like matter means, yeah, they matter in Dutch. And I think, no, 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 they don't matter. Why, of course they matter, but that's obvious. That's self-explanatory. They mean the world. Women don't matter. Women mean the world. Women are better in leading than men. But we'll get to that, I think, in a second. Otherwise, I'll rattle on straight away. So, but my history ties into that because as a child, I just didn't understand the world. I remember being 5 or 6 years old. I didn't understand the thing. Where did I, where did I, why did I turn up here? What happened? Um, I went, for instance, with my parents to a city, and there was a woman begging on the street, and they would just walk past her, leaving her alone. Of course, as a child, you don't understand that. I was bullied at school. I watched the news as a young kid, and I saw only violence and war and things like that. What is going on? And I wanted to understand. And at the age of seven, I thought, I want to understand what is going on here. I want to understand the secret of life. Why are we here? Why am I here? What am I doing here? What's going on? And I had that vivid, let's say, mission or goal. But then, of course, went to school, study, went to work. And I tried to understand everything in our world by using my brains because I was taught that way. So I read more than 2,000 books about religion, about Buddhism, about spirituality, about mysteries of life, about politics, about secret societies, about ancient mysteries, anything I could get my hands on. And at some point I thought, maybe I understand things, but I haven't experienced them. So what does it mean for me? And I was still making a career. I turned up as an entrepreneur. I sold my business to a big company. And at some point, I really remember this. It was 1 year after I sold my company, but I had to wait 2 more years. The arrangement was you be 3 years with the company and then you get your bag of money. And I was for the first time in years with my then wife in on holiday in France. I was sitting in the grass, I having a sip of crispy white French wine, looking at my car, thinking, in 2 more years, I'll be financially independent, and then I can do what I want. I then go looking for this secret of life that I always yearned for. And then just my heart kicked in, my stomach kicked in, and I said, ha, 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 no, boy. If you want to do that, you got to do it now, or you'll never do it again in your life. And it was such a strong, true voice that I thought, maybe this is true. I've seen a lot of people wanting to do things in their lives and didn't do that. And I thought, if I do it now, then I'll have to, but then I'll give away this bag of money. That's my company, my what I worked for. But then I wait. Of course, my heart is worth much more than anything else. So than my bank account. So I might just maybe be better off listening to my heart, and I did that. So I just gradually, not gradually, just instantly, yeah, turned 180 degrees, changed my life totally. I gave up everything, sold my house, all my possessions, also ended up my relationship that I was in for 24 years, and just thought, okay, I gotta find the secret of life. How do I do this? And I also thought, if I want to find this, I want to have a document of it, me discovering it, or the journey to it, the quest. So I have to write a book about it. And I thought, having been in business all the time, manager, CEO, entrepreneur, think, okay, I'm gonna dig a canal like from A to B, and in 1 year time, I'll do the research, this, and I'll do that, and I'll go writing that many pages a day. And in the end of this year, I'll have the book ready. So it was like a straight canal in my head. And after 2 months, not a word have come out of my pen. I thought, well, what's happening? And then I heard something say, well, just let yourself go on the flow of life. This is a meandering river. You can make plans, but life takes you anywhere else, and takes you where you need to be and not where you want to be. So I let go, and then I just everything just happened from that moment. But it took me 10 years to discover things in myself. I was the book that had to be written first before I could write this book about what I wanted it to be about, the secret of life. So I discovered my secret of life, and I found a way to explain it to a teenage girl, Lisa, in my book, the daughter I'd never had in my life, and to make it a read that would adapt to the reader. So in a way that everyone would be able to discover his or own secret, him or herself. Um, and then I thought, when I worked, when I was in my 20s, 30s, I thought, gee, the more I know, the more I have experience in life, the more I did, the less is still unknown, and the less magic there is in life. It was like the scientific approach, more and more and more, and at some point you think you know everything. So when I was on this quest and I discovered my secrets in these little gems of wisdom, but also magic, I then realized, gee, the more you experience, the more magic there is out there. It's like the more you see, the more there's out there. It's never ending. It's like the box of Pandora, but then the positive one is like the universe. It never ends. And that was such an amazing experience for me to find that for myself, and to keep discovering it from that moment until far beyond when I die.
Wow, I'm just amazed that you actually, I'll call it a dream, a vision, a quest that you kept since that age of 5, 7 years old, all the way up until the point in time that you sold your business, changed your life, like I said, 180-degree turn, and focus on this expressing what you had in yourself. But now I know we're getting into the book. I thought we were going to do that later, but I need to ask you, because you mentioned, of course, it's about this teenage girl named Lisa, and it's really the daughter you never had. So is that why you wrote it about Lisa, a girl, and not about a boy?
There were several reasons for it. I thought first I had to write it about a boy, but through one experience what was coinciding at that moment in my life, when I made that change, I realized that I always wanted to become a father, and I wanted to have children. And I at Burning Man in America, in Nevada desert, the festival, which you may know, I had a profound experience for myself, and really got in touch with the daughter I'd never had in my life. This like I gave her a name, Lisa, and for me she was um, something I always yearned for and never had, like the secret of life. So I yearned for the secret of life. I yearned to become a father. So I thought, okay, I want to give her life, and if I can't give her physical life, then at least I can give her life in the book. And only later I realized that one of the elements in my on my mission, the things I found was the aspect of feminine energy, about femininity, about um, the fact, of course, that we all as men we have feminine elements and qualities, and women have, of course, the opposite. Um, but I found that it was quite like a sign for me to, hey, there's one of your secrets you're yearning for, the element that you don't understand in this world, the element that is, why is everything out of balance? And what I found there for me is that, okay, if you look back in history, the history I've been told, I think we've been told in the Western world, is that man created civilization, man conquered the world, and man lead, and women are, um, let's say, supportive to that.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I learned through, yeah, call it mystical experiences, but there was a 2 3 years time in life when I had a lot of those experiences, which in which I was able to grasp the bigger part of the world, but also to get in touch with my ancestors and the broader element of feminine and masculine energy in there. Oh, but maybe I get back to that in a second. But what I learned that way was the world has been out of balance since millennia. Man ruled the world. Man was founded the system that we still have today in economics and politics, and of course we have been more open to say we profess equality, equity, um, but there's not the real same thing as saying that we should respect the feminine energy and power in that. A short sidestep, and maybe that's not clear for everyone, because if you talk about yin and yang energy, that's masculine and feminine energy, is like the black and white. And in that explanation, yang, let's say that the manifesting energy is male, is masculine. But in that
Mm-hmm.
realm, masculine energy is the foundation, the supportive energy for the feminine energy that is creative, that creates new life. And of course, the one doesn't exist without the other, so they should be in balance, or at least some kind of a interaction. But the masculine energy is in service of the feminine energy, and where in our society, in whichever element, in which organization do we found it? Do we found that masculine energy are supportive to women, to feminine energy? Maybe one or two, but that's a big minority. So I found, and I described it to a certain part in this book, about how it is that this came to be, but especially why should this change? Because um, when masculine energy gets the dominance, gets the overhand, it's out of control, and it's a personal reasoning. So it doesn't have to be true for everyone. But if you look at the element of all that we see in the world today, the polarization, the conflicts that we have, the wars that are being fought and have been fought in history, are led by and caused by men. Maybe one or two exceptions, but not more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so on the level of where we have the conflicts, there is masculine energy. And of course, there is action and reaction, retaliation and revenge, and it goes on and on. And the Middle East is a great example of that, unfortunately, but there are many other parts in the world. And like Einstein said, you don't find the solution of the problem on the same level where the problem was created. You have to go to a higher level. And in my view, feminine energy should be this overarching energy, and feminine leadership should be able to get this to a higher level and reconcile and be able to heal the wounds that were caused on this level and can never be healed on this level. Where do you see in future how things can be healed where they are on such a deep level? The strange thing, of course, we had World War II in Europe, and we, of course, were saved by the Allies, by Americans, to great extent. After that, there has been a lot of course, turmoil, but today Germany is a country. For that was the aggressor. There was a dictator there, and he was able to get millions of people with him and do the crazy things that they normally wouldn't do. Um, but we are now in a situation where it has calmed down, and Germany is just a normal country for decades already. We don't look at Germans as you killed my parents or my grandparents. Um, to maybe a few exemptions there, but that's healed. I'm not sure if what we're seeing in the Middle East or in other parts of the world, this can be healed within 1 or 2 generations, unless we have a different energy taking control of that, and that would have to be feminine energy, feminine leadership, women stepping up and saying, okay, we are taking control of this, and we are going to heal this because we are from a different nature than where this masculine aggressiveness came from.
Listening to you, I mean, it's reasonable and it does make sense because I look at women, our mothers, our nurturers, possibly led by the heart, which you would then again instill some compassion and understanding of somebody, and that I think whether you're a man or a woman, you want that compassion, you want that understanding, and whereas a man might lead by the brain, which is analytical and not led by the heart. And then I start thinking about everything else where, out of all the countries in the world, here we're going to get into that diversification, but we are not equal or even close because I believe out of the 195 countries around the world, there are only like 13 countries that are led by women. So we're about 15%. And then I took a look at the S&P 500, Standards and Poor's in America, the 500 businesses, 6% are led by women. So there is an imbalance, and we see the fluctuations in everything, whether in the stock market or around the world, because oftentimes it may not be led by the heart and compassion and understanding. Does that make sense? Am I just talking nonsense?
No, it truly makes sense, and I think the challenge is in how to make this sense for people for whom it doesn't make sense at first sight. If you are in a business situation, even as women in let's say the 6% that you mentioned, the interesting part is indeed also 10, maximum 50% of the billionaires in the world are women. So it's between this 6% and 50% bandwidth that women have control or the power. The rest is masculine. Of course, in the past, that I think it was even bigger. But in order for a woman to succeed in politics or in business, some of them have to just play the masculine game to get there. So they're increasing or emphasizing their masculine qualities instead of the real feminine power, which is indeed intuition. It is compassion, but it's feminine power. Feminine strength is much even capable of much more than male power. If they are in control, if they are in line, if they are in true touch with it. And I fully agree with you there. And of course, we have companies and we see also politics or countries where women who are in touch with themselves and really in true contact with their feminine superpower or power, they thrive, and those companies thrive as well. And of course, you have companies where there are men in control and they are in touch with their feminine qualities. They're more balanced. But this is not about toxic masculine energy, of course, but it's about balance. And we are so out of balance, and we have been so out of balance for a long time, that we need to restore that balance and even maybe swing to the other side, but also by changing that system. Because if we keep this system and want to have 50-50 everywhere, it would mean that it would lead to more women rising up who are able to emphasize their masculine qualities. And I think that's not what we want, because we want the real feminine quality, the real feminine superpower, which is totally different. And then we want the balance.
Yeah, and I think, right. And I think you hit upon something that's very important, and it stacks the odds against a woman from rising above, because of the fact that if they use that masculinity or the masculine side of them, now women attack them.
Yeah.
And it's not just the man. The women attack the women who are using the masculine side to get ahead, to possibly help the women, to help everybody.
Exactly. And then we come to the topic of sisterhood. And I know that it's two men discussing this, and I'm always feeling about the elephant in the room, but I think it's also for a reason,
Yeah.
because sisterhood is about the bond of solidarity, of support, of unity amongst women, because they have shared experiences, shared challenges. But I've asked over 1,000 women from many nationalities between 20 and 60, so in their active working years, saying, would you rather work with in a group with or for or lead a group of 10 women or 100 men? 85%. So, and again, this 85%, 15%, 85% straight says, "Oh, give me the man." It's impossible to work with women. I don't, and my heart breaks to hear that, because I think their explanation for that is in the system. It's like watching the Barbie movie, and when Ken is being told, "Hey, we created the patriarchy." Yes, we did, but that patriarchy is let's say, emphasizing and um, let's say qualifying yeah, rewarding the masculine energies and masculine qualities, and this depowering and not rewarding the feminine energy qualities. So sisterhood, in my view, is a very important topic, which is not addressed these days. And I think it needs to be addressed, because it's not about unconditional support for anyone, but the way I see it, and I hate to say it, especially as a man, but what I see, I've seen it in a workplace, I've seen it in organizations, and I've asked over and over. It's my favorite topic to ask, because I want to understand and I want to be part of change there. Um, Women are able to depower each other in a group, whereas men are
Hmm.
easier able to empower themselves, or in a group. There's still the hierarchy, there's still the machoism or the ego, but it's like a more standard way of acting, and women are able to depower and even destroy members of their group. Where I think, if you would if that would change, that would be so powerful. But they are being depowered, and I think for a way that's due to the system, which is just not favoring their qualities. And it's dangerous. And I'll stop talking. Then it's dangerous to make this comparison. But if you look at at nature movies, and you see a flock of zebras or gazelles being attacked by a lion or hyenas, if they would stand united, the attacker wouldn't have a chance, would stand a chance. But because they run away, because they don't unite, the attacker has a chance. And that's, of course, the way nature works. But I always feel, why, of course, animals work in a different way, but why is it not possible to work together as a group and stand much more powerful than as individuals? And that's what I would like to see and well, help achieve.
Yeah. We'll
Does
get
it
back
make
to your
sense to
book in
you?
a moment because this is a
Sorry, go ahead.
well, no, we'll get to your book in a moment, but because this is really important and very interesting because like you said that in group situation, men will put that leader man up above and help them propel her. Where in the group situation with women oftentimes and even individually, and forgive me, I'm going to use this word, they will say, what a bitch. You know, they will call and label that woman that name and they will make a point of lessening their power and pushing them down. Why? I don't know. That happens everywhere.
Mhm.
Nightclubs, business, socially, everything I hear from women that's what happens.
Yeah.
But uh, in turn, they say they want power, they want to empower, and they talk about empowering each other, but they still put each other down. Not everybody, but
No, no, no. That's true.
many
Never
do that.
everybody. It's never black and
Right.
white. It's never everyone's like that. There's much subtleties to that, of course, and I want to make sure that we let's say acknowledge that. But as a group, as a total, it should be so easy as a group to say, okay, we take over, or we take control, or we need to change this, and we want to, and we make sure it happens. And I think there's part of this underlying element that takes a type of masculine energy, takes a type of action, determination, um, a different type of getting things done or getting to it. And I think that's part of the let's say the wounded part in and it gets a bit more the abstract discussion then, but the wounded part in the feminine energy, it's that yin and yang energy. So it is the masculine part within the feminine energy which is there, which that's why I think it needs to be touched by men and needs to be stirring. We need to stir that pot, not because from a patriarchal in contrary, far from it, but because it needs to be highlighted. It needs to be shown from the outside, saying you're talking about sisterhood, but you're not living up to it. And why not? And how can we get this done? Because we men, we who are, let's say, in touch with our feminine qualities or are more, let's say, more balanced, and a lot of women are balanced as well. We want to see the change in this world, and we need you to do that. We need you to step up because man won't and man can't.
Right. Um, I I I don't want to put words into your mouth or your thoughts, but for me, balance in this situation that we're talking about does not mean 50%, 50-50. It's a more balance because we don't want to say that you have to put a woman in position just to equal things out. It's that we want to have more. Um, it just needs to be different from what we are in right now.
Different indeed, in a way that, in two ways, if you look at the history, at least the last, not centuries, but millennia, you see that women have always been, of course, and we see the change in the last 100 years, 150 years, but have been, of course, always been put lower. And in many ways, um, been put lower than the man. So that's a start where we see, okay, this is a collective image. You can talk about witch hunt or anything else, but um, it has been in our collective for such a long time. It has been with women so for such a long time. And trying to restore a balance doesn't indeed mean 50-50. It means also change in that system, a change of how things work. Um, and it's you could say that capitalism is a very masculine way of doing things because it's about very binary measurement system. Who is richer, who has more money, has more power. That's very straight and that's very straightforward, but it's not the way um, energies in the world work, the nature works. Of course, there's always power, but it's to a certain extent. An animal can have so much power and not to that extent. And man, of course, mankind, we are able to um, overthrow that by a gazillion times because money has made that possible. Um, and like say, if we want to change it and get to a balance, the system needs to change as well. And I'm not saying that we have answers there, but um, it cannot go on in this in this way because it's easy. I think that we would kill humanity within 100 to 200 years if we go on like now, or maybe even in a much shorter time frame, or at least kill a large part of it and make this planet uninhabitable because we're already seeing the results of that. And that's no problem. The Earth will survive, but mankind, humanity, or womankind, I think it would be a shame if we wouldn't survive.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, this again, this is we could go on forever and ever and talking about this topic. It is very important. You are, over in Europe. I'm over here in America, and
On the brink of a very important day again for you over there.
yes, most definitely. There's a lot of, I'll just say, fluctuations or influx of um, more masculine power trying to push its way in.
Mhm.
But uh, jumping over to your book, because can you explain, does your book really touch upon what we're talking about right now? Or is it something else? Because if you could explain a little bit more about your book,
Mhm.
and the reason I ask that is I did see where it was likened to like Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah,
So, yeah, can you
yeah.
give that little, because that Alice was a powerful, curious inquisitive little gal to me,
Oh yeah.
which I, as a guy, would love to follow in that footstep. So, explain this book to me.
I have this Johnny Depp movie vividly in my mind, and at some point, Alice, she goes with the dog, and the dog says, "If you diverge from the path, yeah, you don't have you cannot diverge from the path." And she says, "I make the path." That was such a powerful phrase. I repeated it over and over because I that was power, feminine power to me. It's like in its true essence. I make the path. Yes, you do. We all do, of course, but this book is not as straightforward as we talked about just now. It's more in a symbolic
Hmm.
way. And what I didn't want to, I want to explain these kind of my own discovery of the secrets, of course, in a way that say, okay, it should be interesting for most people, and they should at least after reading say, hey, this is something I will now look differently on in life. And I wanted to first to be able to say to let's say take people by the hand, and that I can only do that by telling a story. So it's a novel. It's like The Alchemist. It's a story with the underlying messages in there. And the story is about it's a very simple story. It's a 13-year-old girl comes with her grandpa, and she faces a lot of adversities in her life. So at some point she says, "Well, what will happen if I just let myself fall from the attic? See what happens." And she comes in a kind of twilight zone where she's actually able to see, hey, I am my body, but also I'm something else, like the observer. What's happening here? And that triggers her to find out what's going on. Who am I? Why am I here? I want to find out. And her grandfather sees that, let's say, recognizes that, and says, hey, there is a secret of life, and I can help you discover it, but you need to find it for yourself. I cannot tell you what it is. And the rest of the story is, of course, he takes her on a journey with a lot of examples and a lot of things he created to make her experience things which make her think and make her feel and experience things that put it all in perspective. And the elements are first, what is energy, what is frequency, but what are our senses doing, and what is this is a quantum physics, actually quantum physics in a nutshell, like what the bleep do we know, the documentary of the 2000s, and put it more simple. That's what I wanted to be able to do. And
Okay.
from the feedback I got, that was a lot of people say, hey, you made it, you explained it. And it's not like rocket science, but I just combined what was out there. It's nothing is new, but it's just a different way of telling. And then it's about, okay, what is your experience in life? And just taking your senses, taking what your path until now, the way your brains work, the way your experience work, and the way that everything you experience in life is based upon where you are, because your position is where you observe everything from, through your senses, your five senses. Meaning that you're always in a position where no one else is. So you're always on a unique position in the world. No one else can be at the same exact same spot at the same time. So the way you perceive things is unique by definition from your position. And put on and add to that the way your DNA works, your senses work, the way that you experienced your life until now. So everything is unique. And that's about, okay, if you're unique, everyone is unique. So everyone has their own story, everyone has their own position. How can you relate to anyone else? Can you understand that you could have been anyone? I could have been you, Chuck. You could have been me, depending on where we were born, where we were born, and when we were born. And if you can understand that you could have been anyone in this world with their own story, you could imagine that you could have been everyone in this world at that specific moment. You could have been Putin or Trump or Kamala Harris, or just because when you were born there, you followed their path, you would come out the same in the same position as they were now. And then the question is, can you understand and try to relate that because of that's the way it works, and we're all from the same source, whatever you want to call it, whether it's creation or a stardust or a Big Bang, um, that you can recognize that spirit or that burning flame in yourself is in the other person. That's of course the true meaning of the word namaste. The divine in me recognize the divine in you. Um, and if you, I try to explain that also in a simple experience in the book, trying to understand that you and I are the same. And I'm actually talking to myself. You are talking to yourself. And the world is actually reflecting everything around you. And I try to make that concept understandable, graspable, if that's a word. And then to um, take that further in ways, okay, if that is part of the a secret of life, or how can you define your own secret, what do you want to do with that? How can you take this further? And how can you make the rest of your life a kind of, um, yeah, fairy tale, or a ride in a roller coaster, where there's only adventure and magic, or thrills. Um, so that's what the story is about. But I truly, that's my purpose. I want to be able to connect and reconcile people, understanding we're all the same, and all the differences are wonderful because differences make us unique, and that's all the flavor in the porridge. But the differences are not the reason why we should be killing or fighting each other. It's the reason we should love each other, and all around us, because of our own the same source, and our uniqueness, that we're doing, unique expression of that same source. And that sounds like very spiritual, very, very abstract, but bring it down in a story where it's very yeah sensible, very relatable to, um, and that's what I wanted to do, to be
Mikhail,
able to tell it. Yeah.
is this meant for a certain age bracket, age group, or is this for everybody, including adults?
No, it's definitely for adults, um,
Mhm.
but I've never be, I didn't want to be a writer. I never wanted to be I never chose to do it, because it's, for me, it felt like a mission. I have to do this. And of course, when every writer knows that writing a book is hard and finishing it is harder, then finding a publisher is even harder, and then getting it to the reader is even harder. Um, and every writer, of course, wants to share this with as many people as possible, because it's worthwhile of reading. So, of course, my answer is this is for everyone. And I know I got feedback from a 7-year-old girl. She was read to by her mother, but she said, "I love this book. I want to understand how it moves forward." And it was also contacted by a 93-year-old grandmother who said that she had to read this book, my book, forced by her psychiatrist, who would otherwise stop the treatment with her if she wouldn't read it. And she said, "I didn't want to read it. I hated it to read it. But then at some point, I was touched by it. And when I finished it, I called my son, who I haven't been in touch with for 25 years. And we are now reconciled again. I now can see my son again and my grandchildren. And now I can die in peace and happy." And for me, that was just goosebumps, saying, okay, these extremes in age, they are also the same, because like that, they can also relate to each other in those ways. But of course, like in many ways, the most readers are readers between 35 and 60, and mostly women.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because I have not read the book, but from your explanation, uh, it sounds like to me it allows me as an adult to rediscover and to discover and open up myself for either whether it be self-reflection, uh, but really to I had a word in my head and I can't think, but really to a discovery. It just allows me to do that, to open my mind once again,
Wow.
because I think of it as when I was a child, I everything I wanted to know, I was experiencing everything. The older I got, it became more and more narrow, where I was not allowing myself, and society did not allow me to explore and to experience. So
I understand. Well,
that's
that's
that's what I'm
wonderful.
getting from you.
Wonderful. You put it so wonderful. Thank you. So that's wow. Goosebumps again here.
But that's that that would be and is a very important book for people to be able to read, and to once again read something that allows them to um, open their minds, open themselves up again for everything. With all of these great compliments that you're receiving and reviews on your book, do you plan on making or writing another book?
Of course, yes, yes. They're working on that, and it's a sequel, and this is more about the feminine, masculine part that we talked about. But it's about Lisa. She's older, and there's a very important part to that, and um, it's yeah that this first book, took me so long to write, because I only could write it when I was out of my head, out of my system, just opening up, and things would come in. And the second part came in like a waterfall. At some point, I got beamed the whole plot at once, and I knew it was perfect and made sense. But now I got to fill in all the blanks and all that and color it in. So it's a different way for me, and that's nice. But um, the I didn't invent it myself; it just came to me. So it's I'm just following orders from someone that's putting it in my head or in my heart. Sometimes it feels like that, and but it is me. So I'm writing part two, and it's going to be finished next year. Yes.
Well, I think you have gained at least one new reader, follower, and that would be me. So I just
Thank
want
you,
to say thank
Alexander.
you very much for your time because I know you are much later in the hour in the evening than I am here. So again, I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, writing. Thank you for getting out the message. And that's on both fronts, your book, through your book, and then also what we were talking about in the beginning about balance, masculine, feminine, men, women, leadership. So
Well, thank you,
thank
Chuck,
you.
so much, and thank you for having me, and thank you for what you do. Um, as I said, you radiated with this so positive and wonderful, smiling energy, and I think in the end, that's what everyone wants in this world. We want to be happy, of course, and you can only be happy when you sometimes know what not happy, being not happy is also about. That's what our world is. It's also about these extremes and duality, polarization, but of polarities. Um, you embody, I think, what a lot of people want to feel and want to be. Just feeling that you're in touch with something bigger and greater, and you can overflow with that. You can just overflow your happiness and give it to the world, and the world gives it back to you, and it gets greater and greater. And like you said, first maybe the path gets narrower, and then it gets broader and broader until it's like infinite, and then you're
Yeah.
in a rabbit hole. Then you're in Alice in Wonderland.
Quantum physics, quantum living, quantum wave.
And namaste.
I said, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mikhail.